There you go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran, and I have my beloved co-host Rob Greenlee on the
Whoa.
morning. Good morning. I knew that'd get your attention. Uh, he's like, "What is he saying?" Hey, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to the show. And I tell you, we're waiting on our guest. Our guest flew home from Iceland last night, and or someplace. He was on vacation somewhere. I mean, we think it was Iceland, and we don't know if he's slept in or if he forgot he was on this morning. But no matter, we'll continue on and see if he shows up, and we'll go from there. But Rob, good morning. How are you?
Doing great, Todd. It's great to be here another Saturday morning talking about new media. I always look forward to the show every Saturday morning. It's always a great show to learn new things and to speak with cool people. So,
Yeah, and then I was. It's been kind of an interesting week for me. I've been just absolutely. I guess, and I don't know if I've ever had a week where I wasn't busy, but it just seems like the last couple of weeks things have been a little more nuts than normal. But I don't know. I guess that's a good thing. But I'm definitely my to do list is getting much longer than what it should. But there was this week I saw a couple of reoccurring themes, and one thing that I saw that was interesting is a lot of folks that have never really live streamed a lot before, or maybe live streamed with other organizations, were doing some have started to do YouTube live streams. Of course, we're up on YouTube this morning, streaming live, and what I love about this is that I get the embed to put on the website. The interface is relatively clean. To get started is nothing more, no more. I guess for a better word, no harder than any other site. But what happened to a content creator earlier this week is during his pre-show, they had to stream up and running. They were live and waiting for the guests to come in, and they just and they were playing some copyrighted music
mhm.
in the background in the pre-show, and YouTube slammed them. They shut them down. I mean, they cut them right when they were live. They hadn't even
Mm.
really started the show, and so this was a surprise to them, and not necessarily a surprise to me because they're very strict about their terms of service, and the they got a 7-day ban.
Wow.
So
Wow.
they were, and there's a little clock that's running on their live interface that says your account's restricted for, X number of days, hours, and minutes, due to violation terms of service and copyright violation. So they, they were like, whoa. So what we're finding here on this live YouTube platform is they are actively scanning for music streams or I don't know what else, and it makes me nervous to be even play a video clip under fair use rights, because if I play a video clip and that gets claimed by someone, I don't know if it'll shut us down while we're live or if it would flag the account later. But I've had to stop playing um, video clips in my show because every time I do and here's what's the weird thing. So let's say it's a news piece. Let's say it's SpaceX has put up something for their one of their launches or whatever it may be, and I take 15, 20 seconds of that. Well, other news organizations are taking 15 and 20 seconds of that same clip, and they're putting it up on their YouTube page. And of course, when they put everything up on their YouTube pages, it's all under copyright. So YouTube, spiders that, and then they come to Todd's content. They say, "Oh, you've got that same clip. You're violating, uh, you know, uh, F, FGH Network's copyright
Yep.
violation," and they flag
Yep.
it. And even though the original clip came from SpaceX and it was fair use and be able to use by the press, I'm getting flagged in reverse, and it just drives me. And it puts your account into a weird standing for until you go through the contest. You have to contest it and everything. But is it getting a little out of control, or have we got to the point where they just have to do that?
Well, I know that any discussions that I've ever had at Microsoft about that type of content, live streaming, user-generated content, has always sparked the legal folks jumping up and down, saying, "Well, how do we minimize the risk of copyright violation?" And because more and more the copyright holders are holding the distribution platforms responsible for redistributing copyrighted material. And so I think what's happened with YouTube is kind of a significant reaction to that feeling that it's a risk, and Google as a big corporate entity doesn't want to take that risk anymore. So cracking down on it is a way that they can keep themselves out of hot water. And I think it a little bit kind of flies in the face of the copyright use law. It actually goes beyond the copyright around fair use. So it's really a significant overreaction to even the fair use clause, and I think it may have a long-term chilling effect of people um, playing other content in their content. So like what's happened here, everybody is 100% original content instead of blending in and adding more context and more, with music. And I still hear a lot of podcasters playing copyrighted music in their podcasts. And I just think to myself, they're getting away with it, but I don't know for how long they're going to get away with it. I mean, it's, every single platform I don't know is gonna go to the extreme that YouTube has gone to here, because they just don't have the back end to actually scan all of the content going over all these platforms, like a Stitcher and all these. I just don't see that happening. I mean, it could happen at some point in the future, but I think that it's concerning, because what YouTube is doing is they're setting a significant legal precedent here too, of a platform taking responsibility for what content flows over it. And I think it does set up a situation where more and more of these platforms are going to feel compelled to take the same stance.
Now, for my situation, let me press the button here. Um, it stifles my ability to put
Yep.
on a good show.
Yep.
And so what I have to do is when I really want to run a clip, I know that within a couple of days of the video going up, it's going to get flagged, and I'm going to have to go through the process and say, no, this is being used under fair use rights, and blah 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 blah. And I go through the process, and then a couple of days later, generally the video's released, because the person that is the automatic flagging automatically flags the other group that's supposed to look at my response. And so it's just, can you imagine, think about the manpower and the hours being burned from a cost center on, okay, so for me it takes 15 minutes for me to respond to a copyright claim. The other person comes back, they got to look at the clip, they got to look at the segment, they say, yeah, this guy's using it fair use, so they got 15 minutes at looking at the segment. And boom boom, you do this 100,000, 10,000, 100,000 times over, and all of a sudden you've got an industry in itself for people that are going to be reviewing content there. And it just really it really makes me frustrated from a content standpoint. And I understand some people are going to abuse, but at some point I think YouTube's going to have to come up with I don't know if it would be a trusted agent, that you're trusted enough that you're not going to, put something up and, your account is at a different level from a flagging standpoint. It is going to be interesting. Now, one thing I saw was, and I'll bring the article up. It was on Ars Technica. And let me load load this here. Let's see if I can get it. And this is a name that you'll know, Lawrence Lessig.
Yeah.
He did a. Let me get this up. He did a presentation in 2010 that basically included some music in the presentation, clips, little spots here and there. That was copyright was owned by Liberation Music, and he put this 2010 interview up, and they immediately flagged the count as being in copyright violation. And as you would expect, Lawrence Lessig is pushing back, and he has teamed up with the Electronic Frontier Foundation and other groups, and they are suing the folks at Liberation Music to pay damages under 512F, the section of the DCMA that requires copyright owners pay damages when they go too far in issuing a takedown. So far, hardly any copyright holder has ever had to pay damages under 512F. And the EFF's one lawsuit in this area has been the incredibly long-lasted Lens versus Universal Dancing Baby lawsuit that was filed in 2007. It's just now lumbering towards an appeal court, and EFF has seen mixed results in that case. So,
yeah, Todd, I agree. It kind of gets back to fair use, right? Where is the line? And I think what's going on here is way past the fair use line. It's a significant overreaction, I think, because there is clauses in the copyright and fair use that allow the use of content in other productions if they're used, for news and those kind of things, and those should be allowed. It's just that I think what's happened is they've just gone too far, and I think what Lawrence and this case and getting the Electronic Frontier Foundation involved, I think is really great, because maybe hopefully through those efforts that line, or that overreaction, can be brought back a little bit, and we can actually get on the line of basically allowing fair use to exist on these platforms and not set this precedent that goes way beyond.
and it happens all the time now, and I'm going. Jeffrey's on chat. I'm going to make a comment about something he said here in a second. But basically, Lessig lecture, according to the complaint, showed clips of different groups of amateurs dancing to the song in Brazil, Israel, Brooklyn, Latvia, and Kenya. His point was spontaneous outbreaks of online culture are the latest in time-honored call and response tradition of communication. So, basically, this is he was actually probably did this company more good than bad.
Yeah, that's true.
In the promotion and discussion of this in his lecture, and yet they took it down. Now Jeffrey Powers is on chat, and he says, I just had this happen to an HP video he put up. Now, Jeffrey is, has done stuff on contract for HP, where he's created content for HP, and he's putting stuff up, and it's getting flagged. And, of course, I don't have the details. Maybe he'll tell us in chat here. But he says, I have a request in to the BMG, ASCAP, and CSAC to find out how to put music on a podcast. And I think there was only one person that was successfully able to do that so far. I think it was the folks over at Coverville that licensed to make sure that they wouldn't get in trouble by playing covers.
Yeah, but there's a lot of podcasters that I see that play music in there that there is no license that you can get for that. I mean, unless you're unless you have a deal directly with an independent artist, it's there is no license that you can get to play music in a podcast.
And what will end up happening is that they'll get a surprise in the mail they're going to get a summons, and they're going to get a demand letter, and they're going to say pay up.
Yeah.
And and it's usually when the damages are many, 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 many times what the rate would be if they were, um, if they had paid in the beginning. But the only real provision at this point is for the folks that are streaming. So if the streaming folks, they know how much they have to pay.
Yeah.
That's been outlined by the Copyright Office in D.C. And of course, there's been big battles over that. And here's the crazy thing, So what the radio people did, and this is ironic, is the radio folks had basically didn't like all these online radio streaming stations, so they
Yeah.
really pushed hard for the Copyright Office to apply some sort of tariff on the streaming folks. When they did, they come in many multiples higher as a payment rate against the streaming folks than against the radio folks. And the radio folks, the calculation and how it's adjusted against revenue and all this stuff was really favorable, whereas the streaming stuff was not. So now what you have is you've got a lot of radio people going digital, and they're like, oh, this isn't fair.
Yeah.
And yet they're the ones who pushed very, very hard and lobbied to get these. They were trying to make them go away and run them out of business. And they ran some out of business. But now, don't,
Yeah.
be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and hopefully that means that same lobby is going to push for applying a lot of the same rules that exist around a radio, around fair use, get applied to podcasting at some point. Because I mean, on the broadcast radio side, there are licenses that you can get to
Right.
to play music and to present other content that really doesn't exist on the podcasting side.
And what's funny about the whole radio bit is they pay based upon their quote unquote assumed market share. Dependent upon whatever, they had X market share in a market. That's, they pay based on that audience size. Jeffrey says in chat here, he says, the HP interview I had to get written permission to use, even music that is, and he goes on to say he did an interview with Richard Branson interview. He said that got took down until I removed the video in the middle. So again, more and more of this, and what really is just, you really laugh, is that in the context that most of us are using it, at least, in legitimate interviews and stuff, it is giving it's giving promotion, to the very people, and it's not like, so how do you link to a video in a video? How do you say, oh, go over to YouTube and look at this video that I want you to watch right now? That's stupid. It really, really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a silent war against, I don't know if it's free speech as much, but fair use, and I'm not really sure, how this ends. Does it get better, or does it progressively get more restrictive? I think what we're seeing is it's progressively getting more restrictive, and I'm not sure what is going to cause it to start to roll back. Maybe I would say that most places online that are making it possible to distribute content are not being this kind of militant about controlling copyright as YouTube is. And maybe over time, this creates a backlash against YouTube. And I know that here this past week, the Maker Studio folks just bought Blip, which I thought was really interesting. And as part of that, yeah, as part of that that purchase, they put out in the press release that the reason that Maker Studio bought Blip was so they could make sure that they had an avenue to distribute their video content beyond YouTube.
Oh, that's an interesting move.
Yeah, so I thought that that was really, really, really an interesting shot across the YouTube bow about this whole thing, and it may be possibly being driven based on these copyright restrictions that we're starting to see on YouTube, and maybe there's going to be a kind of a blowback against a YouTube. I mean, right now they kind of have a monopoly on the distribute this stuff, right? And you
Yeah.
can do live streaming, you can do all sorts of stuff there. They have all the tools. They make it really easy. But there's this dark side to distributing your content on YouTube too, and that's exactly what we're talking about.
Well, that Blip purchase went really under the radar. I hadn't even heard about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird buy to be if I and I don't fully understand it.
Well, it just is as simple as Maker Studio is a lot like Blip in a lot of ways. They've been very focused on making content for YouTube, but what they obviously want to do is to have a platform that can distribute content outside of YouTube, and that's what Blip is, and is the other big player is Vimeo, right?
Right.
Now I know that YouTube with this live streaming thing that they're doing now is basically a threat to UStream and Justin TV and and a couple other folks, right?
Yep.
So I don't know how those guys are managing this new threat from YouTube.
So let's talk about this. This purchase by a little bit more. So how that had to be a huge. Who's the backers behind Maker Studio? Are they funded?
Yeah, I mean they're actually the largest content provider that's part of the YouTube partner program. So I
Okay.
think they've had lots and lots of views and have under contract some of the biggest YouTube celebrities.
That's interesting. And again, it was under the wire here a little bit. So it's
Yeah.
definitely going to be interesting. And if they're doing that, if they've bought them, I wonder if they're going to change the Blip model and force the Blip producers out.
Um, I don't know. I didn't get that impression about the discussion. I think that the big question is Maker Studio going to be open to using Blip's platform as maybe a podcasting platform? I don't know. My gut would be is that they've been all about streaming.
Yeah.
And I know that YouTube has been backing away from podcasting, um, but you never know. This new kind of resurgence of podcasting here over the last, as far as perception wise, anyway, may start to change the dynamic of the whole distribution model, and people might be more willing to look at using podcasts as another form of distribution. I don't know.
Yeah, and of course, then they buy all the distribution they already have. See, they've got distribution into a lot of platforms. I think they're even in Xbox. So that it's immediate access. I'd love to know how much they spent.
I'm most deals like this are in the 30 to 50 million range.
But you think that's all Blip was worth?
I I believe that they had venture funding in the range of somewhere around 20 million. That's fairly typical for a startup that's been around as long as they have. So that's why I'm thinking that if they at least got their venture out of it and probably a bonus on top of that. So I don't know. I'm not sure that they actually announced what the actual purchase was. I don't know what the actual dollar amount was of the purchase. I mean, a lot of times those things are held private.
Now, whoever Lisa, I don't know who Lisa Donovan is. I don't know if she's with Maker or if she's with Blip, but in the chat room, it says Lisa Donovan, GM. The article says the CEO is out. So if that means that there's going to be a little bit of a change in leadership over there, then too.
Oh, I would think that there probably would be. I mean, it's hard to have two heads, but I did
Right,
read that they were going to operate Blip separately, so it isn't like they were just going to absorb the back end technology.
right.
They were going to keep it as a division of Maker Studio.
Yeah, and it says right in the article, with Blip, Maker could distribute content to more places and devices such as game consoles, streaming boxes, connected TVs,
Yeah.
smartphones, and tablets. So that I think they know what we know, that those devices are the place to be. So
Well, and YouTube is there as well, but
it's
it
hard,
gets back to the same thing that we always say, Todd. You can't put all your eggs into one distribution platform.
but
And there's
yeah,
so many people doing that.
but also what it does is it allows them to, you know, okay, let's just look at the Blip front page. Now, if you think about this for a second, um, when you go to, oh, that was dumb. I hope I didn't load a. I hate typing the wrong web address in. So if you look at the Blip front page, let me flip this up here.
Yep. Yeah, I'm on
Then
there.
so what they're going to be able to do then is, if it's bought, they just load this up with their people. They can do whatever they want here. Now they'll be able to intermix some of the other existing shows that aren't part of Maker, but they
Yeah,
could.
yeah.
But what it also does is, when people load the Blip app, you're not buried, because in YouTube, go ahead and find this show on YouTube when you're looking for. When you're looking for this show on the on the YouTube app, you're not going to find this show on the YouTube app unless you dig and dig and dig and dig. And you can keyword and you can do everything you can, but you know, so this is a smart move by them. Definitely a
Well,
smart move.
yeah, it's also a move that could set them up to, be more like a television network. And start thinking about YouTube as a cross promotional avenue for building your own channel, right? I mean,
Right.
it's exactly what Blip has been trying to do, right? It's the same thing as is create a destination. It's kind of like Bravo Television or something like that. I mean, I'm starting to think more and more like Blip and like Bravo TV are kind of like the same kind of concept, right? You're creating shows, very specialized niche shows under a fun brand, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, is that the online side and the broadcast TV side are becoming more alike. And I think Maker Studio is all about creating Hollywood quality content in the new media age, right?
Right.
So it's typically shorter form content, but they needed a distribution platform that they controlled, and that they could help people more easily discover their content. They may still watch it on YouTube, but at least they have a destination for what they do and have a back end that can
Right.
can make possibly an audio podcast available if they wanted to, or could make a video podcast, or could create their own branded players, right?
Yeah.
So,
And the key there is they have a back end.
yep,
And
exactly.
that's back ends are not cheap to build
Yep,
by any means.
yep.
We were talking with a new company this past week, and they are building a brand new back end, and we're like, well, why are you building this? And it's built. Let's if you can get out of what you're in. I made a Facebook comment about it, because sometimes companies, how should I say it? They're in for a penny, they're in for a dollar. They just don't know. They know that they should stop, and they know they should change gears, but they just can't. And damn the consequences. They're going to move forward. And it just and in your heart that within weeks or days or months, you're going to be in there, probably cleaning up their mess.
Yeah.
And and that is, that just it really is discouraging. It's companies are too often wanting to reinvent the wheel, and the wheel's already been invented, just for the sake of going through the pain. I don't get it. I don't. But
Yeah.
um, I don't like throwing good money away, but some people do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I look at Blip and I I know that I have quite a few of the shows that are um, shown on this page as podcasts
Right.
um, in my catalog today. And there's a lot of shows that are not. And typically, what you see is the shows that are not in my catalog um, at at Zune and Windows Phone are shows that are like scripted dramas kind of stuff.
Huh.
And that's what Blip has tried to play in. They kind of play in this scripted drama slash tech, food. I mean, if you look at the list of genres, so it's this the content providers that want to play like their television shows, right,
Right.
will typically not think of podcast distribution, but the content providers that are creating shows like around gaming and comedy. I mean, well, comedy's probably not a good one. Food, music, video games, um, typically will also be podcasts. So it's like this, if you're creating like a TV show kind of thing, you typically don't think of podcasting. But if you're creating a show that appeals to like maybe a geek or a technologist or like cooking show or those kind of things, you think of podcasting for some reason. So there is this kind of dividing line that happens on these platforms between what shows up as a podcast and what shows up just as a streaming show.
But one thing that's interesting here, Rob, is that looking at their shows, I don't, I haven't watched a single one of these, and I think what it is that the demographic that they're reaching is a younger demographic. I don't,
Yeah, yeah,
you
that's
know,
right. And yeah, and that's exactly what's going on here is that more and more of these shows are shows that are popular on YouTube, but are not popular outside of a YouTube because it's a age thing. And I'm not sure that that is going to stay the case forever. I'm not sure, and I don't know. This is a hard one to predict. Is YouTube going to continue in the long run to be a place where millions of young people go to get content, or is there going to be places outside of a YouTube that those folks go to get content? I guess it's their attention is going to be pulled by the content, right? So wherever that content is available, and if it's easy and cool to get to, that's where they're going to go, I guess.
I'd really love to see a statistic on, what happens as a YouTuber that started, watching YouTube videos when they were 20, and now that they're 30. I think YouTube's been around 10 years, hasn't it? How long has it been around?
Oh yeah, yeah, 10 years, yeah.
10 years. So, what's happened to that 30-year-old? Are they watching the same amount of content on YouTube, or have they tapered off? And, that's what I'd love to see is, where that demographic that started on YouTube is going. And I think that alludes to the same thing you said. But, I look at some of the stuff that's on the front page of Blip, and I'm like, no, 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 I don't want to watch something about the Addams Family or Honey Boo or top 40 shark movies. No, the Smurfs too. No, Minecraft. No, there's nothing here that to me is like, almost like, you know, it's bad.
Yeah.
Um, and let's look at a different category here. So let's see what would be a good one. We could do animation, comedy, drama, entertainment, food, music. Oh boy, there's not even a tech, no tech, sports and cars. They're really, and they're very limited. They've narrowed their scope of cars. Now I used to post my stuff up on YouTube. Let's see if it's even still there. Geek News. Oh yeah, Geek News Central. I'm a series. Am I still? Oh, okay. So I haven't posted anything over there in a long, long time, and
But you still have a presence there,
I
right?
still have a presence there. And matter of fact, when was the last time I pushed something there? It was March of 2012. So, and all my album art is up there. I guess it looks good from that perspective. But, I just wasn't getting traction over there because they buried us,
Yeah.
you know.
But
So,
these guys are very much still in the podcasting space. I mean, they're I'd say it's like 50-50. It's like half of the shows that are on this platform, I actually have in my podcast
are you
catalog
getting the RSS feed from Blip or is it from their own websites?
from Blip,
See, that's
from
just,
Blip.
in that experience is so horrible
Oh, I know it is. Yeah.
because when you are, well, they've throttled it. Any of that stuff that's
Mhm.
being served by our assist feed, if you're not watching it on their website, it doesn't even play. Their videos don't even play back in real time.
Plus also,
they're
yeah,
buffering all the time.
yeah. Well, plus also, from what I've seen, the playback off of those feeds has been restricted to certain platforms too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard and tested some of them on other podcasting, client software,
Right.
and they just don't play. So the only platforms that I've seen that YouTube content, podcast content plays on is the Zune Windows Phone platform and iTunes. I don't
Oh,
know that they play on Stitcher or they play on any of these other platforms. Now, granted, it's mostly all video,
yeah.
um,
And
but
is it because of it just is throttled or blocked?
it's blocked from what I can tell. I mean, if you try and play this stuff in a like HTML5 player on your website, so let's say you get a direct link to
Right.
their
Right.
feed,
Right.
um, and and you try and play it in your own player, it'll pop up this red message on the player that says, you have to watch this on a blip compatible
Yeah. Player.
player, right?
Yeah. They make you use their player.
Yeah. And that's because they're trying to deliver advertising, and the only way they can do that is because of the deep hooks that they put into their player software to
Do,
to play the ads.
do you remember me in the very beginning warning people to get off of Blip?
Oh yeah.
And if people were like, "Oh, this is not going to happen. You don't know what you're talking about. Are you?" I took a lot of ridicule across over a period, and then little by little they started to tighten the noose, and they did it over about a year and a half time.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, here we are. And that's it's one of the reasons why I'm not on there posting over there.
Though I would say that from a podcasting side of the fence, putting on my podcasting hat, these folks are an important piece of our ecosystem that
Blip is.
is walking is kind of walking away from that side, right?
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah. Well, they walked away a long time ago, though. It hasn't been. This isn't something that happened last week.
no, it's true. They've mentally walked away from it, though many of their shows are continuing to be podcasts. So I guess my bigger point is trying to get with these guys to get them to open their eyes and see what the opportunities are, around the podcasting side, or is it just about audio on podcasting, and is that where we're ultimately going with this? Is the whole video podcasting side of the fence gonna just languish, or what's gonna turn that piece around, or is it ever going to turn around? And I guess maybe in the bigger picture, maybe video podcasting just doesn't have a place in the ecosystem anymore. I don't know. What's
Well,
your thought on
I
that?
think it's. I think if you look at back, it all started out primarily being audio, but the video has increased because it's gotten cheaper and it's easier, and
Yeah.
there's more places to host it. I think from that standpoint, it's going to just exist. It, I don't think it's less. I don't think it's diminished. But we know for a simple fact, there's more hours to listen than there is to view.
Yep.
So that in its sense, there's you're not going to watch, or you're not going to listen to 10 or 12 hours of, or you're not going to watch 10 or 12 hours of podcasts a week. You might watch an hour, and then but you can listen to a lot more audio.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it is what it is, but at the same time, I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah, I think that the whole concept of downloading video for playback, and I think Blip is a great example of what the problem is, and it's this whole bandwidth thing, right? I mean, the concept of an RSS feed that has a direct link to an MP3 file or something like that, or yeah, an MP4 file. I'm not so sure is a competitive way of distributing video content compared to the existing technologies that are out there that are doing streaming, right? Because most people, even with video podcasts, they just want to click play and have the experience happen to them right now, and they want to, select their favorites and subscribe and all that kind of stuff like that. But they don't necessarily always want to have the whole video download, right? So I think there's some structural things around video podcasting that just maybe are starting to just not make sense anymore, as opposed to the alternative, right? Which is the flash streaming and the HLS streaming technologies that are getting better and better.
But
And
but Rob, there's very little flash streaming anymore. Everything now
no,
is,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, but it still has a percentage of the market out there. I still see people doing it. But yeah, you're exactly right. But still, it gets back to, what's the best experience for a viewer, and with video podcasts, I would say Blip is not the best experience, right? Just like we've talked about, they've throttled the bandwidth, and the reason they throttle the bandwidth is the same reason that they want to do streaming, is because it just delivers the bits based on what the user needs at the moment, and not it doesn't just flood
But
their
but
bandwidth pipe.
but the problem is that most people are doing on demand anyway. So
Yeah,
they really, as far as my opinion goes, they really were short sighted,
yeah,
because most people were on a video were clicking play.
yeah,
I think people need to get out of this notion. People don't care how it's delivered; it's just delivered.
yeah.
And
That's true. That's true.
but the thing is, the folks at Blip they didn't want it delivered. They didn't want someone to find it on another website. They didn't want it had to be in their wrapper. That's what it was
Yeah,
all about.
that's right.
You
No,
know,
that's true. And if you
but
scroll down the page on their site, it says we have apps. So they're
right.
they're, they're trying to drive as many users as they can to their own apps.
But when you get a bunch of independent content creators that have their own websites and not just a presence on Blip, the content creators want to have a modern HTML5 experience on their websites. They don't want to, it really
Yeah,
drives me crazy to have to put a YouTube embed on my website. Just doesn't make any sense anymore. Just give me the
yeah,
link to the file, because it plays the same.
yeah,
It doesn't play differently. It plays exactly, if you go over to, if I load my site up, and so what we have here, when I load my latest show, and let me bring that up, and let me switch over to that one. Okay, so what do we have here? We've got a video that's embedded in the website, and there's a play button,
yeah,
and it plays the same as a YouTube video, but I don't have all the extra goop that that YouTube requires me to have,
yeah,
or that Blip, and it's clean. I click play, and it goes.
yeah.
So
No, I agree. That's a much better experience for the user. But I think this this whole discussion gets back to the tension that exists, and I've been talking about this on other podcasts here over the last couple of weeks too, is the whole issue that I think even with podcasting, we're seeing a gravitational pull into proprietary platforms more and more. And I think, I mean, it started with YouTube, and I think we're seeing it happen more and more, where these platform brands want to have exclusive content. They want to control the distribution of the shows that are on those platforms. They don't want to have shows that are distributed everywhere.
Well,
They
that's
yeah.
very short. That's dumb.
Yeah, but that's what's in the best interest of those platforms from their perspective, um, from a business perspective, because then they're creating this exclusive content opportunity. Well, you can only get this show here, so they think that that's the model that will build their business, right? And I think that's the tension that we're seeing happen even with podcasting now, where more and more of these new platforms that are launching are only looking at offering a select group of content providers that they have business deals with that they can sell against, that may or may not be available on other platforms as well. It depends. That's really, if you cut to the chase of this next wave of new kind of podcasting on-demand radio platforms, that's the tension that exists just based on my conversations with the CEOs and trying to get familiar with these newer platforms, is that they're going to have tiers of content. They're going to have people that they have deals with, right? And we've seen a lot of the stuff that's happened in the past, um, you know, um, but so you're going to have tiers of content that they're going to promote, highlight, monetize, and then they're going to have like this second tier of content providers that are available everywhere, right? Some are not even going to have that second tier of content providers. Some will. So this proprietary platforms pressure, and Blip is an example of it as well, is going to make it difficult for content providers to freely distribute across all platforms. I don't know what you think about that.
I think they're foolish.
Yeah.
Because if you need to make money, you put the advertising within the content, and then it doesn't matter where it goes.
Yeah.
And then within the content, you push them back to the main website that you want them to go to. But if they think they have to build the web traffic, they're in for a shock.
Yeah.
It's about the views. It's not about the web traffic. It's about the number of people that are, in the ease of which people can subscribe to that content.
Well, and it's really the tension is between what's best for the content provider and what's best for the platform, right?
If they think the platform is going to be their platform is going to be, I think they're going to be in for a big, big, big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to make you're going to make another destination location. It's very hard to break out as a destination location.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to break out as a piece of content freely distributed across many platforms, and you monetize within the content versus monetizing at the platform. I wish them luck, because I got 16,000 shows on a website, and believe me, it's about having those content creators having their own .coms and having their own brands and being distributed. It's not about them coming to a single location to find content.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it also gets back to being able to monetize too. I mean, if you're a content provider, you want to get as many eyeballs as you can to your show, and you want to be able to monetize that. I mean, not everybody wants to monetize, but
right.
but a lot of people do, and you want to get it in front of as many people as you can, right? But if you're a platform owner, like let's say a Blip or a Stitcher, or you want to control as much of the audience to and attract to your platform and keep them there, right? You don't want them watching a particular show on your platform and then going over to iTunes or going over to, some other platform to consume that because it was more convenient for you. You want to force that user to consume that show on your platform, right?
But
So
the problem is,
that's the tension, right?
well, they think people are tied to a web browser. They're sadly mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
A-
it's
And people,
more than a web browser now. It's these apps, right?
well, the
Apps
apps,
on every
okay,
platform.
okay, but the apps, the mobile, okay, they're in for a surprise.
Yeah,
It's not. People are not consuming content that way.
yeah,
Some people, oh, I got to have an app. Okay, go ahead, spend the money for an app. Then tell me truthfully how many people are watching your content on the app. Tell me truthfully. And when
yeah,
people are willing to tell the truth
yeah,
about how many views they're getting on an app, it's going to change this discussion. I know what the truth is.
yeah, yeah. It's not that much. Yeah.
Why hasn't Raw Voice built an iTunes app? Why haven't we? We know what the numbers are, and we know what the return on investment is.
Hmm.
And we're talking about building a network app. We're not talking about building an individual show app.
Yeah.
You're going to have a certain number of people. They're going to, sure, you're going to get, oh, you got an app, fantastic. Let me add that to my 862 apps that are on my phone already.
Yeah.
How often do you go beyond screen 2 or screen 3, Rob, on your phone to pull something up? You don't. What do? You load the browser up, or you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're going to
So I
have
guess
they're going to
we're
have one hell of a lot of compelling content in
yeah.
order for, I mean, a lot of compelling content to keep people's attention beyond what they're specifically looking for.
So I think I mean, if we really kind of sum it down to what we're talking about here, it's the tension between the interest of the content provider
Right.
versus the interest of the platforms, and 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 I think content wins in the end. But I guess for content providers to be able to adequately monetize across many platforms, there needs to be better standards in how that happens, right? And how is a content provider going to be in more control of the distribution of their programs across multiple platforms? That I think that issue hasn't been addressed, and continues to get more fragmented as more and more of these platforms become more powerful.
The monetizing across platforms is not an issue, with one exception: YouTube.
Yeah,
The measurement across and here's, they all poo-poo RSS. Oh, yeah, the RSS has got to go away. But guess what they're doing?
yeah,
Everything is being fed by RSS, and everything's being fed by a piece of media that sits on a server somewhere.
mm-hmm.
Very few, a few of the apps people are caching, but the majority of them are not caching. They don't want to pay for that hosting. They want to get that hey, that if that content can be delivered for free, that's
Yeah,
that's another penny or two that's in my bank account instead of theirs.
yep.
So, we're starting to see Stitcher starting to, not cache all shows. Why is that? It's because the volume has gotten to the point where, we're not making enough money to pay for the carry it. So I don't know. I guess we'll see over time. Jeffrey made a comment. He says, I don't have any red boxes from Blip when my content is played on my site or on Roku. So maybe something's changed.
Yeah. Well, it's possible that they've opened it up to more player platforms.
But yeah, I just don't like their playback performance.
Yeah,
If it
that's
anytime
that's what really is.
anytime I get the spinning wheel, that's a kiss of death. You're done at that point. One spinning wheel, the people leave.
Well, and it also makes the content provider look bad. It doesn't necessarily always make the platform look bad.
Right, because they don't know
It
where the content's being hosted.
yeah, and that's the real issue.
So, did you hear anything else in news this week that was big? And I guess our host has forgot about us.
I think so.
our,
Yeah, or our
our
guest. Yeah,
guest, yeah, our guest.
yeah. It doesn't look like he's going to make it. And for a lot of folks, Saturday mornings is a day to unwind
Right.
from a busy life, and so this has happened before to us. And actually, for years and years, I did my own radio. I did my show live on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. And I had the same thing happen with my live radio show. I had people booked to call in, and they never did. And then I just had to ad lib for the whole show after that. But fortunately, I had a lot of co-hosts that we could keep a conversation going. So so it was, these kind of things happen, and they're no big deal, and we'll just move on, and talk about other stuff that is interesting in the news, over the last week. I know this is kind of a slow time of the year for any kind of news. I know it was a big day with Microsoft yesterday too,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure that has a lot of new media kind of impact. But
So, how did the? I'm sure there was mixed emotions because I'm sure there's people in the company that either love Ballmer or hate him. So, what do you think the consensus was?
well, let me just say, uh, I know that um, most everybody in the company has the highest respect for Steve Ballmer and what he's done for the company for all the 30 some years that he's worked there. And um, and I think he's a great leader, and I think it's going to be very difficult for the company to replace a guy like that. I mean, it's those kind of guys don't grow on trees. To have that kind of presence and a leadership. I mean, to be CEO of Microsoft is that's a pretty darn scary job when you think about it. The impact that job has on people around the world and the stock market, and people's computing lives can't be underestimated. I mean, it's a huge job, and there's been a lot of speculation on who might fill those shoes, and the the list keeps growing, but I don't know that there's any consensus on, being able to fill that kind of a job. It's not going to be easy, and it could go a lot of different directions. It's hard to say. It may be really great for the company. I mean, I hope it is
I, I,
to
I
have this shift happen.
I'd like to see him bring in someone with some fresh vision.
Yeah,
The Windows 8 thing. I think honestly, I don't think they're willing to say it yet, but I think Windows 8 was kind of like Windows ME. And we'll see how
yeah,
the service update if it improves the experience. It was if every computer screen had touch, it probably would have been better. But the majority of us are still driving our computers with a mouse. So,
yeah,
and I understand where they were trying to make up the difference. Where they were trying to catch up, and they were trying to
yeah,
catch up to Apple's what they were trying to do, and
yeah, yeah,
but at the same time,
yeah. I think
it,
they probably went too far too fast. I think is
yeah,
is kind of my my assessment. And I think they were trying to do two things with one product that maybe the market wasn't ready for yet. Because I mean, I use Windows 8 every day on all my computers. I made the jump, but I can also see having a Windows 7 experience as an option with Windows 8
yeah.
is a compelling solution. Maybe that new UI Metro side needed to be reserved for just tablet devices and not laptops. And I don't know. I mean, it's
Well, I'll be honest with you. Windows 7's, in my opinion, is the best operating system ever. I
yeah,
just it works. It's flawless, and
yeah,
it's comfortable. Um, in reality, from Windows 98 to Windows 7 is not that big of a jump from a usability standpoint.
Yeah.
So I really, and I have been really sitting on the bench here on which way to go with my next machine because I got to make a replacement here soon, and I'm since okay, is it time to unplug from Microsoft a little while? But then there's certain stuff I use. I'm like, can I get that on a Mac? No, I can't. Another check mark in the block for Windows. So it's a tough decision to make a jump from from the operating system you've been on for since you cut your teeth on computers to. And I
Yeah.
use a Mac for a laptop and stuff, but I don't use it. I use it for video editing.
Yeah.
That's what I use it for.
Sure. Well, I don't have any problem. I just made my Windows 8 computer to be just like Windows 7. I mean, and that's exactly how I mostly use it. It's my work computer, and I could certainly live in that new UI experience, but I find that I don't spend a lot of time over there. I mean, so I put the start button back on my desktop side and have my settings set to automatically go to the desktop side. So I basically made Windows 8 into Windows 7. Though I would say that Windows 8 desktop side is actually better than Windows 7. So it just, it just gets back to using it in a way that fits with what your needs are.
Yeah.
And I don't have a touchscreen on my desk here, so I'm one of the few people that still have a desktop computer.
Yeah,
Um,
I do too, and largely from a performance standpoint. That's the
well, it's
reason.
just there. It's there. I had it with, I've had it for years, and I know a lot of people are going to tablets, and I went out and got myself a Nexus 7 the other day and playing around with that. It's the first Android operating system device that I've ever purchased. So
How do you like it?
I think it's interesting. From my perspective, I don't. I think it's a lot like Windows 7. If you want my honest opinion, it's it's kind of like halfway between uh, the iPad, the iOS experience, and a Windows experience.
Right.
It's kind of like right in between. Um, and I'm just envisioning using this, like a with like Windows Metro on it, and I don't know, the smaller icons. I can see an advantage to that versus those big tiles. Um, I don't have that bad of eyesight that I can't see the smaller icons. So, but that's the only real difference that I see between Windows and Android is just the size of the tiles or the icons.
Jeffrey's saying that Kevin Rose should be the
Yeah,
next
I saw
CEO of
that.
Microsoft.
That would never happen. Never in a million years. Sorry, Jeff.
Is it too young?
I just, it's just a guy that just doesn't have the the professional street cred that Wall Street would want to see in a CEO. I think that a guy like a Tony Bates, who is the CEO of Skype, I'm thinking more and more looks like um, looks like a great guy for the job. So I don't, that's who I'm thinking could be is
That's
Tony Bates,
interesting.
the CEO of Skype.
Obviously, I've lost my shade in here. You see, I'm getting flash in the face.
Okay.
My makeshift curtain, the trade winds are blowing and it has gotten blown down. So either I'm gonna have to go off camera here in a second to fix that, or we're gonna have to wrap up. Anything else in the news space that you've heard this past week on the new media side?
Um, well, I still am continuing to hear about these new podcast like platforms that are starting to bubble up right now. Um,
Any that you can talk publicly about?
well, I did hear about one that was it's called Agogo.
Go
Um,
go.
Yeah, Agogo. It's a new app platform that is doing stuff kind of like, yeah, I'm seeing this new companies coming up that are trying to take the Pandora model and apply it to podcasting. And swell.am is another one. And actually, I got the CEO of Swell to join us on the media show on September 7th. So he's gonna call in, and they're only on the iOS platform right now, but it is like a Pandora for news radio. So they're getting very targeted towards a specific genre of content here. And certainly they could branch out into other genres like comedy. They could create a swell for comedy or something like that. Um, but I think it's really, there's a couple other companies that are kind of brewing around platforms. I don't know if uh, I'll just say it, art19.com is another one. Um, and you can certainly go check that out. That company hasn't officially launched yet, but they do have quite a bit of online stuff about what they're doing. Um, so I think that keeping an eye on these companies and what they're up to, I think could be kind of at the cutting edge or the bleeding edge of where podcasting is.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I don't know what kind of uptake these platforms are going to have, but I know that they're working on trying to be cross-platform. They're trying to be on every device. They're trying to even be in the car. They're trying to build real monetization into the platforms, and I think and be in the car and all those kinds of things. So I think these new generation companies, and I also, like Stitcher is making some significant inroads into the car too. So
And here,
these,
and
go ahead, Todd.
here's the funny thing. They're all the same shows. Again, it's all the same content creators. I'm looking at their little list of shows that they're showing on their webpage, and it just cracks me up because in the end, they're building their businesses around content from content creators that have their own points of presence and have their
Yeah.
own agendas to make money.
Well,
So that's the funny
and
part about this whole thing.
yeah, and it gets back to what we were talking about earlier too, is that you know, from a platform perspective, and I talking to these guys, I can sense their desire to have exclusive content.
Okay,
You know,
do you
yeah,
think they're going to have that deep of a wallet?
that's the question, right? I mean, that's what all these platforms want, is they want to have exclusive original content,
Oh man, you know,
and because that's the only, I mean, okay, so there's only a couple ways that a platform can differentiate itself, right? It's around content,
yeah,
or it's around function or features, right? Or brand.
right.
Those are really your only levers that you have to compete in the market. And so it's easy to go down that path, and I believe that that's what this whole Blip and Maker Studio is all about
Yeah,
too.
but then that I understand. These other guys, they got a long road to hoe. They have no idea what they're getting into. And they if they're gonna if they think they're going to get okay, you want exclusivity of my show?
Yeah,
Be prepared to write me a significant check every year.
yeah. Well,
And in
you know,
advance, not pay as you go, in advance.
yeah, but a lot of them don't really want to do that,
Well,
right? So their value prop is, well, we'll pay for your bandwidth, we'll get you advertisers,
oh, whatever. Yeah.
we'll get you metrics.
Yeah, okay.
That's going to be their hook, right?
Oh, yeah, okay. Great hook.
Yeah, but that's exactly what YouTube is trying to do too. So you start thinking about
Oh,
how
man.
these companies are modeling themselves after what they see YouTube doing.
And they're mostly going after video on the mobile device.
No,
It's a mix.
it's actually a lot of them are just going after audio.
Yeah,
So it's just taking what they've seen be successful and with YouTube and applying it to
I
audio mostly.
just crack up. Oh, you're gonna pay for my bandwidth? Oh
Well, I
man,
mean, that's what it's the same model that Podcast One is doing too. So I mean, you look at
okay,
what those guys are doing; they're doing the same kind of thing.
Podcast One has a different caliber of
Yeah.
content.
Well, yeah, that's true. No, that's one ace in the
That's the ace in the hole for
yeah.
Podcast One.
It is, and these other platforms don't really have that ace in the hole
No, they
unless they
don't.
can get like like an earwolf to be
Uh-huh.
exclusive on one of these platforms or something like that. I don't. The problem is I don't see an earwolf getting
No way.
exclusive with anyone.
No way. It's not going to happen. Not
Yeah,
without them paying. They're going to have to pay. You know,
yeah,
everyone wants, all these. That was a big thing at NAB. Hey, you got content? We're looking for content. Everyone wanted to talk to me. We're looking for content.
yeah,
Hey, we got content. Hey, I got plenty of content. Let's talk about distribution. Sure. How much you going to pay? What do you mean pay? You want the
yeah,
content, right? Oh, yeah. Well, you get your checkbook out.
yeah.
So it's oh, they are so I'm going to love having if this is the model behind Swell and some of these other folks, you know, they I hope their venture capitalists are fully aware of the roads that they have to um
Yeah.
the road that
I
they have
don't.
to hoe.
Yeah, I don't believe that Swell is exactly in this area. I think they're all about curation and taking like news content from NPR and CNN and all these
Right,
things like
right,
that,
right.
and freely available content that are openly distributed, and just doing a better job of curating that stuff
Yeah.
for people.
So
I think what Swell's all about. These other platforms, like Art 19 and
have
Podcast One,
have
and
they
those are
is
playing that
is
game.
is Art 19 even talked to anyone in the space? It's it's real funny that they're going out and doing this, and they haven't even talked to content producers.
Well,
You
they
know,
they are talking to some, but from what I gather, they're only going to have like 100 content providers when they launch, so they only have to talk to 100.
but I'm not giving a site exclusivity
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
in distribution.
That's
It's not
that's
happening.
yeah. But some will, right? Some will think that that's the way to go. And
They're
the problem
idiots.
with like an Art 19 is that they're not going to have any scale to make it worth the content provider's time.
Right, right,
It's the same issue that exists, I believe, with even like a blog talk radio.
right.
Um, they have lots of shows, but the question I have is really, do they have any listeners?
Yeah.
I,
The audio is so
that's
horrible that that's first on my list with over there. I- I-
but
I-
yeah, I mean it's really unfortunate, and I have thought about trying to invite the CEO from Blog Talk Radio on this show. I'm just not so sure it'd be a pleasant experience for
Oh,
him.
I don't think he would. I think
Um,
based
but
on
but
based
it's
on my history and talking about them, I don't think it would be good.
yeah,
We can have them
but it's
on, but it's
I mean I do know that they have built into their platform the ability to do these shows over Skype.
I don't know how they're still in business, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah,
That
that's
that's
they've been around a long time though, Todd.
yeah,
They've
but
been
how they how are they making any money? You
it's
know,
all it's all advertising on their website and trying to draw visitors and things like that.
I think they make money from the dial-in stuff, just like the
Yeah,
folks at Free Conference Call does. Yeah, I think they
yeah.
get a kickback on that because they're calling some exchange in Kansas or something like that.
And there's been a lot of companies out there that have like bundled talk show features, like World Talk Radio and WS Radio and what's it? Not Voice of America, but AmericaVoicer.com or something like that. That will sell you a package, right, to produce an online talk show, right?
Yeah.
And it's only $300 a month or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So those kind of services have been around for a long time, and they're typically horrible. I mean, horrible at getting podcast feeds out. You know,
Well,
their artwork looks like crap, and
if
their feeds don't work.
if any network wants Geek News Central to be an exclusive content provider on your network, just come before you call me. Call your banker. All right.
Take out a second on your mortgage, and then call Todd.
And then come with a check. Because I'm not going to be stupid enough to, we just know the history on this. It's just, oh man, I just understand it. I'm okay. I wish them luck.
But that's what's going on in the space.
Idiots.
I mean, and at some point, I'm not sure where this is all leading to, and will we have another big die-off? So are we seeing kind of like a bubble form right now around podcasting and platforms?
There's
that's going to bust, kind of like what happened 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, it depends on how long the venture hangs out, and if they can get their hands around on making money. Because in the end, no matter you cannot make money on an audience that has 300 people. You cannot make a living. That was said. We had as a Google Plus discussion the other day. There's a lot of podcasters out there that think they can make money off a small audience. It's not going to happen. It just doesn't work. You got to have the volume. You got to have enough volume to make the numbers work. Or you have to have something so niche that people are willing to pay a high amount of money to reach that niche.
Yeah.
And a niche is a neurosurgeon. That's a niche.
Yeah.
A niche isn't talking about a Ford Mustang. So it's a tough world out there. It's from a content creator to try to make, if they love the craft and want to do the content, it's fantastic. And we want them to, and we want them to be successful. But there's just some facts that you have to have an audience. And these apps are going to have to build multi-million listener audiences in order to have enough money to pay the bills. First of all, they got to pay for their staff, they got to pay for the infrastructure, and they got to pay the content creators.
Yeah. And I don't believe that there's enough room in the market for as many players as with coming into the space.
No.
That's the challenge, I think.
If your company's small, if Art 19 is made up of a couple of people,
it's not. It's actually got like 15 or 20 people working on it already.
Well, right there, 15 or 20 people, you already need $2-3 million just in revenue just to make salary.
Yeah.
So, if Art 19 was 1 or 2 people, this would work. But, if they think that they're going to, I think they're very sadly mistaken in their approach. And they're going to have an incredible lineup.
They're going to have to change course, is what they're going to. I've talked to the CEO of Art 19, and just to learn about what they were doing. So a lot of it is still kind of under wraps, but
yeah.
My own thought is I think they are going to have to change their model, either before they launch or after they launch pretty quickly. They're going to find that there's a lot of crickets.
A lot of crickets. And how do you break out? You're single. They don't even have a on, if they're going to have a web page presence, that's great. But they're going to have, and they're talking about a single app amongst a sea of 100,000 or a 500,000 or 1 million apps. That's
Yeah.
what it is. People they're so hung up on the app.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, uh, you know, Pandora. Look at the lineup they have, and they've had a tough go of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they're one of the most well-known apps around. So, it just makes me cringe, makes me
But
laugh.
it is, I mean, it is exciting to see that
It is.
there's investment coming into the space, and people are trying to come up with new ideas around trying to build kind of next generation platforms for this stuff. And I I applaud them for trying, and I think they can certainly learn from history, and I think that they can learn from people that are in the space today. Um,
Send them a link to this show.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I think that's one of the
Oh,
reasons why I try and reach out to all these people is to try and pull them in into the community. That's why I try and get them on this show,
yeah.
to get them connected to the community at some level. Because a lot of times these folks are out there just kind of doing their own thing, and they don't really connect with the content community that's
Right.
really at the base of what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And it, and it really boils down to the content. And content creators need to be smart. They're the kings of their destiny. Don't sell your content short.
Yep, that's that is the bottom line. I mean, if you
Because
can get on all these platforms, that's
yeah,
great.
it's fantastic. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. The key is to get on all of them.
yeah, if you can, yeah,
Yeah, if you can. If you can't, that shows you, in my opinion, because what's going to happen? People are going to get this app. They're going to say, "Well, I want this, this, and this show on this app."
yep.
That's immediately what's going to say, "Well, that you can't." Well, what do you mean I can't? And they guess what they're going to do?
They're going to go off and use some other app.
That's right. And they're going to get.
It's really as simple as that.
Yep, absolutely. Rob,
All right.
we're here at an hour and a half. Can't believe we made it an hour and a half. So maybe you can get Chase rescheduled down the road here. I'd love to have.
Yeah. No. I think it would be fun to speak with him because he is doing a unique model around monetizing serialized video content.
Yep, very very cool.
So, yep.
All right, everyone, thanks for being here. Next week we're off. We're gonna the Labor Day weekend. We're going to rest and enjoy Labor Day weekend, the last weekend before I guess summer is officially over. And Rob, who's on the following week?
We have Ram that's the CEO of
Oh, okay.
Swell.am.
So that'll be a
That's
good follow on to this conversation.
yeah.
We'll have to talk with him about some of those suggestions.
Well, I mean, he's not as focused on the whole exclusive content
Right.
thing, but he is taking a different tact around being very genre specific in an app platform and then trying to create a Pandora experience around it. So it'll be an interesting conversation. It's definitely a new offshoot in the whole model of podcasting.
And our winner of the book that we were going to give away, Beyond Powerful Radio, was Ryan Talbot. I'm still waiting for his Amazon information so we can get that to him. So Ryan Talbot was the winner of the book that we gave away for the guests on Beyond Powerful Radio. So Ryan, if you're listening, I've sent you an email or two. I'd love to hear back from you so we can get you that book delivered via Amazon Digital. You can reach me here at the show at todd@newmediashow.com. Of course, Rob's email is rob@newmediashow.com.
And that can be found on Twitter too, at Rob Greenlee.
And I should put your little, there it is, at Rob Greenlee. And of course, you can reach me on Twitter at Geek News. Rob, keep your ear to the ground. Put your ear ball down on the old train track, and let's see. This is good stuff today. Finding out about these other companies. So I wish them luck, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
It's tough.
It is.
Yeah.
Everyone, thanks for being here, and I'm getting sunlight right on my eyeball, my covering for the studio has fell down. So, everyone, we'll see you next time. Everyone, take care and aloha. Okay, stream's coming down. Everyone on YouTube, see you later.
See you later.